to Canadian Kindle owners, but bear in mind that our government copyright promoters are book banners under the skin. And Kindle provides such folks with a real gift. A novel banned for some reason, a hostile regime, for example, would simply disappear from your Kindle. Your possession of it is contingent. The suppression of truth puts people of my age in mind of Fahrenheit 451, especially as reimagined by Francois Truffaut. Evacuating a Kindle would be like Julie Christie having her memory erased. The memoirs of Saint-Simon would simply disappear from the world. How much time do I have? A minute, maybe?
A minute over.
Already a minute over. Okay, well, let me simply say then that what we have in Fahrenheit 451 is the burning of books. And apart from the problem with digital, the temporariness of digital materials, we have reached the very curious moment where book burning should be so much in the news. Religions of the book take their respective books very seriously. For this reason, the burning of the Quran, the book of Islam, leads to violence. The book cannot die, but in a manner of speaking, it can kill. The connection between these truths merits further thought.
Now return the first member of the government.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll put myself up here. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable members of the no world clocks. Oh well. So, I would like to spend a couple of moments in rebuttal of my honorable opponent's remarks. First of all, the point about falling asleep while reading anything in the middle of the night and where you might lose your place. I want to point out a point that one of my colleagues made about her e-reader, that while you may have difficulty when you wake up from falling asleep while reading something, while you are reading it in bed in the middle of the night, you don't need to hold a flashlight as you read, not waking up whoever else might be in the room. There's that point. They're backlit very nicely. And, of course, you don't have to struggle with finding the bookmark somewhere under the pillow or behind the sheets or on the floor. And if my honourable opponent has never had the experience of a book folding itself shut while he falls asleep over it, then he is a better reader than I. That point is clearly in favor of the e-reader, I would say. Now, as for the environmental cost and so forth of the electronic book industry, I think we might want to ask ourselves about the environmental cost of the pulp and paper industry as well, and the enormous production that has gone into recycling paper and so forth, that it may well be that there are trade-offs to be had here, that most of us, I think, when we are trying to decide whether to hand out a handout in class and have many copies of something, or to present it in electronic format so that all of our students can read it without printing it out, we feel that we're making the environmentally better choice by choosing the electronic alternative, and I would question whether we are all wrong in that. In terms of copyright and ownership, we feel that this is irrelevant to the topic of whether the book is dead or not. Copyright and ownership issues arise regardless of the medium in question, and we look forward to the next decades of battling out these issues. But we feel that they do not adhere specifically to electronic books particularly. So. Now, if my 2 minutes are up, which I will never know, never mind. I will move on to outlining the government's second line of argument in favor of the contention that the book is dead. So, my esteemed colleague has already argued persuasively that the static, solitary, and authoritarian Gutenberg book has been and must be replaced by the active, collective, and democratic new book. What the position that I will outline is that the book is dead, the Gutenberg book is dead, precisely because it is an inadequate vehicle for human expression. In 3 ways. First of all, it conveys such a narrow range of information. Secondly, the way it organizes information is often a poor fit with the human mind. And thirdly, it's culturally limited and limiting. In fact, it's a tool for cultural imperialism. Our first point is narrow bandwidth. So the printed word, the written book, the Gutenberg book, is a pale shadow of the full communicative experience, as you are currently experiencing it. The full communicative experience involves body language, it involves facial expressions, it involves intonation, timing, and interaction, the narrative flow of spontaneous conversation. These things can't be learned from books. Language, as we know, develops naturally. It's a natural process of human development. Literacy is a cultural practice, carefully taught. What is acquired from simply observing other people in conversation, whether as an infant or as an adult learning a second language, goes far beyond what could ever be learned from reading words in a book. Now, this issue comes up especially importantly when we look at the situation of endangered languages, languages that are not currently being learned as a first language by anybody. So, according to UNESCO, there are close to 2,000 of these, which is about a third of the world's languages, living languages. So, the question of how to pass on this precious inheritance to the grandchildren's children of the current living speakers is a very important one. And the printed book is a simply inadequate vehicle for this purpose. The new book that incorporates audio components and video components, makes it possible to organize and document the information of these languages while preserving the natural dynamic features of the remaining speakers' personal voices, which otherwise are in danger of being lost forever. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, the book is dead. A second point is that the Gutenberg book has organizational limitations. The Gutenberg book organizes information in a linear way. This is fine for a story, but consider a dictionary or an encyclopedia. Take a dictionary. The alphabetical organization of a dictionary is highly limited. It conveys certain information that we store about words, but it ignores a lot. And in some languages, this is fatal. So for Athabascan, for example, Athabascan languages have their semantic root not at the beginning of the word, but at the end of the word. So organizing a dictionary of Athabascan languages in an alphabetical way would be it would make it impossible to look up words. A searchable electronic dictionary, on the other hand, allows the user to search for the sound of the root or the meaning of the root or the spelling of the root or whatever they might want to search for. And that is a much more accurate way of searching for something as it's represented in the human mind. That's how the mental lexicon represents that kind of information. It's all interconnected in a complex web in a way that a book simply cannot represent information.
Time warning.
Our third point, Mr. Speaker, is that the book is a tool of cultural imperialism. As we mentioned, literacy is a cultural practice. On the other hand, a culture that has an organized, documented literature has a practical advantage for passing on their knowledge and beliefs to the next generation and to members outside their community as well. Cultures with a written literature tend to have a higher status, whether rightly or wrongly. But the written word, as it turns out, is an inauthentic and alienating vehicle for conveying the knowledge and practices of an oral culture that doesn't have a written practice. Or, for example, of the deaf community, where communication is mainly through sign language. The new book opens up tremendous new opportunities for these communities to organize and document their knowledge and culture, liberated from the cultural imperialism of the written word. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, the book is dead.
I do remind the House that filibustering is not appropriate at this time, and we will enforce so you turn off the microphones should that become necessary. And now for the Leader of the Opposition, the Honourable Sayers.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. I suppose I will refrain from reading from a telephone book for the next 7 minutes. My rebuttal is contained in the written document that I have that is printed out before me that I'm about to read aloud. According to the National Reading Campaign, between January 23rd and January 29th, 2012, over 111,000 English language ebooks were sold in Canada. Meanwhile, Amazon.ca, Indigo Books and Music, and more than 260 independent bookstores across the country sold over 1,153,000 print books. When compared with that same week in 2011, the sales of English language print books in Canada increased by 4% in 2012. Let me repeat that second half of that sentence. The sales of English language print books in Canada increased by 4% in 2012. Canada libraries saw similar trends, including an 8% increase in print circulation. Between January 23rd and January 29th, over 2,141,000 print books were borrowed from the 28 public libraries participating in the NRC survey. Not even 2 months old, this data suggests several things. First, ebooks account for only 10% of book sales in Canada. Of course, this percentage will likely increase since in Canada and elsewhere, ebooks are rapidly growing in popularity. For instance, Canadian libraries witnessed a 50% increase in digital circulation between January 2011 and January 2012, and the NRC claims that a recognizable digital readership is emerging fast, so fast that they are developing a new reading plan for Canada. However, as NRC spokesperson Jamie Broadhurst observes, the adoption of ebooks is not cannibalizing print sales. In Canada, there is simply no compelling statistical evidence that print sales are dramatically down, even if, according to the January 2012 Global Assessment of Ebook Markets, the country ranks third internationally in ebook sales, below only the United States and South Korea, where ebook sales consist of 20% and 14.5% of the market, respectively. Still, in the face of this convincing evidence that the print book is nowhere near dead in Canada, let's entertain the possibility that in 2050, the ebook sale is roughly 80 to 90% of the market. Even then, we must answer the question, can the print book die? Is that even possible?